Every time a passenger fell asleep, the rideshare driver would secretly get out of the car and open the trunk. At first, he planned to steal valuables, but instead found a trunk full of cash. After a brief hesitation, he only took 4 bills, 2,000 euros. He wanted to use this money to rewrite his life. After an 800-kilometer trip, Ivan finally dropped the client off the next morning. The door was opened by a blonde, blue-eyed, middle-aged woman. She ignored Ivan and went straight upstairs with the man. Half an hour later, a fat man came back down empty-handed, paid the driver $300 and then drove away. Ivan didn't leave immediately because he never wanted to miss a chance to make money, but barging in would be rude, so he rang the doorbell. Before Anna could even ask anything, Ivan bluntly said her employee was not only incompetent, but also a thief. Anna immediately understood. She went upstairs to check the accounts and found the numbers didn't match. When they met again, she had a much better impression of Ivan. He also explained his purpose. He didn't know exactly what business they were running, but he could guarantee 2 things. First, it was definitely illegal. Second, he was more capable than the fat man.
¿Quieres ganarte 10,000 euros?
Claro.
Just like that, Ivan secured a high-paying job. People in the industry called them couriers, responsible for transporting money during gang laundering operations. In short, they drove across EU countries delivering cash. Of course, if caught, they bore all the losses themselves. The job was extremely profitable, paying at least 10,000 euros per trip, plus tips. It sounded easy, but reality was far more dangerous. One night in France, Ivan was stopped by police. They discovered the millions hidden in his trunk. Although Ivan claimed he had sold his property to get the money, the officers didn't believe him and prepared to interrogate him harshly. But Ivan proved he was born for this job. Knowing they had no real evidence, he called the consulate and threatened international complications. The officers didn't want trouble and let him go. When Ivan returned, he learned those 2 officers were actually sent by the organization to test his reaction. His performance impressed the boss, who not only signed him long-term but doubled his salary. From then on, Ivan reached the peak of his life. He had more money than he could spend and even had Anna completely under his control. But trouble eventually came. One day, Anna brought him a serious issue. A local politician was investigating their company, and she warned him not to look back because that man was sitting in the corner. The only clue they had was that the politician stayed at this hotel every Friday night. The rest was up to Ivan. He immediately agreed, seeing it as a chance to rise even further. Just then, the politician appeared on TV, and Ivan noticed that the woman beside him was not the same one he had seen at the hotel. That meant his private life was messy, and that weakness had just given Ivan the perfect entry point. After several days of surveillance, Ivan finally got his chance. But his suspicious behavior had already caught the attention of the security guard Carlos. While the politician and Jose were having lunch, Ivan had already bribed a cleaner to get a master keycard. Just as he was about to open the room, Carlos suddenly appeared and beat him up. Carlos was a principled guard, but only when money was involved. After receiving 10,000 euros, Carlos immediately switched sides and helped Ivan install a hidden camera. He was impressed by Ivan's methods and was tired of being a security guard. He asked to join Ivan as a partner. Since Carlos was skilled in combat and Ivan needed help at the start of his rise, the 2 quickly formed an alliance. Back in Spain, Ivan chose the day of the politician's party to make his move, bringing a carefully prepared gift that could destroy his reputation and ruin his family. His goal was simple: to make the politician act as a middleman and introduce him to powerful figures in politics and business. Most of these elites already had business ties with Francisco and trusted him deeply, so they would never accept a stranger easily. Seeing Ivan's gaze, the politician immediately understood and stepped in as guarantor, claiming they were close friends and completely reliable. With his endorsement, the others had no choice but to accept. With this connection secured, Ivan's business exploded overnight. His operations expanded rapidly, and he quickly reached the peak of success. But as he grew stronger, he also drew the attention of the police. One day, Ivan and Carlos had just finished a job and were heading upstairs when a BMW suddenly cut them off. Carlos stepped forward to argue, but the other side immediately attacked with a hammer. Ivan was also knocked down, and they warned him, leave immediately, or next time he would be killed and dumped into the sea. Ivan was not someone who backed down easily. The bigger the risk, the greater the reward. The next day, he went directly to Francisco's estate. Francisco couldn't help but be impressed by Ivan's boldness. Ivan stated clearly that he would not leave, but promised he would no longer take Francisco's clients and would split half of all profits with him. Francisco accepted, since getting half the profit without doing anything was a good deal no matter how he looked at it. But in reality, this was all Ivan's stalling tactic. He had already realized he was being watched by the police. His cooperation with Francisco was part of a larger setup. Anna had secretly made a deal with the police. Within 1 month, she would gather enough evidence to convict Francisco in exchange for her own freedom. Everything was part of a carefully designed plan. With Francisco arrested, all officials linked to him were taken down as well, and Spain entered a nationwide anti-money laundering crackdown. Ivan's business collapsed overnight. To regain his position at the top, he had no choice but to take the risk of working with the mafia again. Despite each of them previously having their own laundering methods, Ivan and Anna's approach was clearly more professional. Most importantly, they took a smaller cut than others. After connecting with the mafia, Ivan's life once again went smoothly. However, disaster struck. One day, Anna angrily told Ivan that all their Swiss bank sub-accounts had been frozen. Not only their own money, but also billions of euros belonging to the mafia that had not been properly laundered were stuck. Ivan felt like he had been struck by lightning. The police were clearly preparing to move against them. To secure their future, they had to run immediately. Money could be earned again, but getting arrested meant losing everything. But before they could get far, a van suddenly blocked their car. It was the drug traffickers. Seeing them, Ivan immediately gave up resistance because unlike the police, these people would really shoot in the street. He was taken back to their base, and the situation couldn't be worse. The drug lord demanded his money. Ivan said he didn't have it. The boss demanded his life. Ivan calmly replied, "Wait, I can give you a better solution." That was exactly what the drug lord wanted to hear. Because of a leak from Ivan's own men, the cartel was forced to flee urgently. But they still had over €1 billion in cash that couldn't be deposited or taken through banks. Ivan understood their situation and claimed he could move the money to Singapore for a 10% fee. With no better option, the drug lord agreed. Ivan's plan was actually very simple. Ship the money in shipping containers along with people by sea. Yes, straightforward and efficient. He had already bribed customs officials long ago. Although rarely used, he still paid them monthly, just in case. Ivan successfully arrived in Singapore and waited for Anna to join him so they could retire together. But instead of Anna, Interpol showed up. Only after being extradited back to Italy did Ivan learn the truth. The person who betrayed him was Anna. In the end, Ivan was sentenced to 15 years for money laundering. In an interview, when asked if he regretted it, he said the only 2 things he regretted were not listening to his father, never do illegal things, and not listening to Anna, never trust anyone.